Now, back when I was a kid, Robot Wars was in its prime and they released toys, obviously. And they were pullback scale replicas of the big fighting machines that we all saw on Friday nights. I always felt that the collection of robots could have been expanded vastly into a lot more competitors. I thought this is going to be a good challenge, and it worked. It's Dominator 2! And of course it's got to start somewhere. We had to design it first. But there's a bit of history behind this because I actually designed this when I was a child. And to prove that, the sketches are a bit out there, but this is what ushered me to design my own. I can't remember where I read it. It was in one of the magazines or something like that. I think there was a competition to design your own toy. You know what they do in kids magazines, they send in their own plans. The competition states you win your thing. And here are the original design plans that I did when I was a kid. I designed it to have a spring-loaded axe that's a bit similar to the shunt toy and the exterminator toy, like with some sort of latch thing that you press a button on the side there and the axe would fire down. I thought that would be a bit too complicated. Connected is spelt wrong there, but the original idea was still there. And the reason why I was so keen on designing my own toy was because issue number 2 of the rebooted Robot Wars magazine. And there is an article in here about the Robot Wars toys. This is the article that I was inspired by. It told the story of a man called, his name's Chris Moon. And Chris Moon, wherever he is now, he designed the Robot Wars toys. There's a picture of him designing Mr. Psycho there. It was these sketches here that inspired me to do a very similar thing with Dominator. Kind of looks nothing like it, but you see the original intent there. I was infatuated by this article. It was good to see the design process of especially the new house robots, especially Mr. Psycho and Growler. And it just made me think, well, what other competitors are there that they could do? They did do Tornado and Dan Tom Kier, and it kind of made me think there should be space for some more, and hence why I wanted to design and send off plans for a Dominator 2. But of course, it never happened. It never happened. The magazine went away into storage along with these plans until I was rummaging around. And then I found the plans. I said, I'll get to work. I will design my own Dominator 2. Which actually brings us nicely onto, pan up, the CAD designs. Let's go. Woo. Here we go, back into Fusion 360. Hopefully you get an idea of my creative output, I suppose. My previous venture into it was actually the beta weight design that we did. This was a lot more complex. This was a lot more to take on. It was very time consuming, a lot of problem solving as well, and you can probably see that some of the geometry has a few issues, but we'll gloss over them. So we need to find, where are we? Here we have, I don't know if you can see that, because we're doing the shell here, this will be one side of the wedge. Because Dominator 2 has dual wedges, I needed to find a workaround to make it. It wasn't as easy as what you thought. So there you go, you can see that shape a bit better. And we added in, this is a plane that we needed to loft towards. So I actually put a point on here somewhere. So this point here, we measured out the distances accurately, and we decided this point here will be the point at which the top of the wedge is. So then we basically lofted material to that point, which created a very odd pyramid sort of shape with this very large wedge on the side. We didn't really want that, so basically I went straight from the top and deleted material downwards across that middle line there to create one side of the wedge. And then we basically added a mirror on this face here to create the second side of the wedge. So there you go, it's the dual wedge that we all know and love. Now we're sketching out the very back. Dominator 2 has it is a very unique shape. We needed to add in the back section essentially, A lot of this was lofting to planes that didn't exist, so I had to create them, add a point onto them that they all went to create the triangular sort of shapes. There's a lot of triangles involved in Dominator 2's shape. Here you can see where the point actually sat. There you go, that is the point that we lofted to. We did that on both sides to keep it all symmetrical, all lofted to that single point. Then we added in another loft to that point again, where we added material from here to create that back slope. When you look at it from the side, it isn't a straight diagonal down, it's angled once and then angled a bit steeper twice. We needed to create that, and that's how I did that. We added in another plane on this side because we needed to add in a point, which is here, although I think I changed it a bit later on for the wheel guards, which is what we are coming on to next, because basic shell shape is actually completely done now. This is where the wheel guard was going to go. You can kind of see, if I find here, these squares were the original squares that we were going to add material to, raise them up to make the wheel guards. I did actually add in the other wheel guard there and use that as my guide, because I could actually delete the entire thing and just draw them out themselves. So what I actually did here was I drew this shape on this rectangle, this triangle, and we deleted these smaller triangle shapes on either side, extruded it all the way to this side here, and that deleted the material, except we didn't go all the way, so we had to do that twice to take away the material on that side there to create that sort of almost roof. Would you say roof? I'd say roof. This was chamfered. These were chamfered angles that created the bevel that we needed, because Dominator's wheel arches, they're not flat. Here we added in more chamfered angles. Because of the odd angles of the wheel guards, we needed an odd angle in here. They're not just straight down. We wanted to go for something quite accurate, and that's pretty much bang on what I saw in my guide pictures. We added another plane to loft to, again, like the top points and the very back. So we added another point on here and then lofted one triangle to it, and then the next triangle to create these funny angles here. Then we added another mark down here where we lofted these edges here down to, which created the pointy on the wheel guard. And then we mirrored it to the other side to create the second wheel guard on the right. Again, fruitless, as you'll see in a second. Scrolling ahead, we actually changed the scale of Dominator because that I thought was a bit too wide. The wheel guards actually had it in quite a lot of width, so we just scaled it down and made it a bit thinner to coincide with the actual robot. This is the point where I realized that to make a shell out of it, I kind of had to go back a step, and to do that this is the reason why I deleted one side. Now, to shell it, I couldn't actually shell inwards. So when we were designing the beta weight, the shell was added material to the inside. We couldn't do that with this Dominator model. We had to do it outwards to add material on the outside of that, which created a few errors. This edge here, which we didn't really want, and this point down here is slightly raised. It's not on the very bottom. I didn't really want that, and no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't fix it. And there was this as well, this at the back side. Because of the strange geometry of how I made it, it added in this annoying little bit. But I did manage to get rid of that. And then we added in the screw post, because originally it was going to be screwed in. Didn't go with that in the end because problematic. So we added in 3 screw posts, and we created 3 screw holes for them to go in. I was quite proud of that. I thought that was quite a neat touch. If anything, it's something for the glue to adhere to. And then we added in the central part for the axe mount, and then we added a final mirror to bring it all together as one piece. And there we go, that's the outer shell practically done. So for the chassis, we actually had to import into the design the outer shell, because we were going to use the inside edge to map out the floor plan essentially. Once that was done, we could remove the shell and extrude upwards to the desired thickness that we needed, and there is our main floor plan. We added in the screw holes, which we didn't need in the end, and the wheel mounts, and here we can see the dimensions of the wheels. This central column was for the axe to sit on, and then the next few steps were basically building that up. Beveled the edge to create the angle, added in the front support there, rounded that edge there, added in the very back support of it. The central section was removed so the axe could fit in, added the holes for the bolt to fit in. I go back center mount there. I decided to add in some holes for some details. I thought that was a neat touch. Did it on there and on that part there. For these parts here, we mapped out how large the pullback motor was going to be. There we go. If I put that on, you can actually see this line here is the axle, and then the inside here, we've got a little bit of tolerance. It was actually quite a snug fit for the pullback motor. Fits nicely under the axe mount, so that was okay. And then we just basically added material here to create the space for it to fit in, you know, making sure that the axe mount fitted in the gap at the top. The next part was actually the axe, and that's very easy. We took the dimensions in here between the two struts of the axe mount and we created it this way. So we scroll back, sketch out the initial plan, then we added in half of it. We're going to do it half and half because there were some holes in there I wanted to be mirrored, but I couldn't actually find a way to do it. They don't go all the way through, they only go a part way. We mirrored that onto that side and joined them together, deleted some of the lines. We added a plane at the back of the axe for the head to go on, so we could add this circle on here, and then we did a loft which created a very good representation of the axe head. And then we just basically did a chamfer on with another circle to create the beveled edge on the top. Added in the left and right bars to they aid in self-writing, don't they? Then I added in the axe head here. That was a fairly decent height. And then I added a plane here because this is, if we go to the right, is where the point of the axe is going to go to create that sharp axe head. And then basically we go back to this one here and we add in the axe into the design, and that is practically it. That was my finished design anyway. However, when I sent off my STL files to Fabdir, the 3D printers that I was working with to make this, he replied back saying that some of the geometry is a bit odd. We couldn't do the holes because the printer doesn't print in that sort of definition, so I actually had to go back, take out the holes from the chassis and from the axe mount. That's no big deal because we couldn't print in the definition that I wanted to. It was a bit too small. I had to increase it by a few millimeters. Here we go, you can see that the holes have been taken out and the shell has actually been made a little bit thicker. We've still got this problem down here. However, I found a way how to delete that horrible edge that I didn't want. It's slightly altered to this one. I mean, you can't really tell. Then all I had to do was send off different printing files. They all were in their own separate file. There's another one here for the axe by itself. That's an axe there that was originally designed. It was a bit too small, so I had to redesign it again. But basically, if we go back to here, that is my Dominator II design in Autodesk Fusion360. And I am not disappointed at all at that. For someone who is a complete noob, well, we saw how much fun I had trying to make the beta weight. That is a damn good representation of what I wanted to achieve. I'm still quite flabbergasted actually because, well, look at it. That is pretty impressive. Okay, I know Adam of Fabdir said that there was a few issues in the print, but whatever he did, it mustn't have been that bad, otherwise it wouldn't have printed as well as it did. That is a Fusion360 representation of Dominator 2.